What's worse than being attacked twice by a grizzly bear? Being attacked by a grizzly bear twice. June 20th, 2010 was a mild 59 degrees Fahrenheit in Alaska. In a remote area close to past Iditarod, 54-year-old Robert Miller was wrapping up his day and getting ready for home. He was a MillRock Resources geologist and had been looking for potential metallic mineral deposit opportunities in the area. Robert's helicopter was already in motion to pick him up. All he needed to do was find a suitable landing spot for the pilot and then radio his precise location. The region's landscape was a mix of rivers, spruce forests, tundra, and open sea. It is a region that is known for its wild beauty and wilderness. There are 60,000 grizzly bears in North America. They can be found in Alaska, where there are 30,000. Robert was aware that he was in bear country. He had completed training before he began his field work, should he encounter bears. In preparation for the helicopter's arrival, he began to clear some brush using a handsaw. His bag was on the ground, and his pack was in the most dense part of the forest. His radio was slipped into his shirt pocket. His .357 Magnum was at his fingertips. Robert was halfway through clearing the area when he heard a loud noise. Robert turned his back just in time to spot a grizzly bear emerging from the undergrowth. Robert was shocked to discover that the bear had been within his reach. It was only 25 feet away. Robert was left with little time for thought and very little time to act. Robert believed it was a joke charge, as is often the case. However, he was stunned when the bear continued the attack. It didn't growl at Robert or stand on its hind legs to show power. Instead, it ran straight at him. Robert quickly pulled out his .357 Magnum pistol and pulled the trigger. In panic, he barely touched the animal. Realizing that the animal was not going to stop, he threw himself on the ground. He lay down on his stomach, his fingers interlocking behind his neck. He buried his face into the dirt and prepared for the attack. He had been trained to do so in this situation. He knew he needed to protect Robert's neck, as bears will often bite prey at their necks and head to imprison them. Robert was shredded to the bone by the bear in just 15 seconds. The attack ended almost as fast as it began. Robert watched the beast move away and breathed a sigh of relief. He sat there for a while, checking his posture before rising to his knees. Some male grizzlies can reach 8 feet in length and weigh more than 700 pounds. They can smell food up to a mile away, and their jaws can crush a human skull. They are territorial and can be hostile towards intruders. Females are protective of their cubs, and they can become aggressive around carcasses that they claim as their own. Robert groaned at the pain in his right arm and was shocked to discover the extent of the wound. He stood up and looked to his side to see the bear approaching him. Robert was stunned and raised his gun again. The bear was just 40 yards away, so he fired 2 more shots. His injured arm was shaking and unsteady, and he almost missed the bear. He firmly planted his feet on the ground. He lowered his face and prepared for another beating. Robert was repeatedly mauled by the bear. He was able to play dead. Robert was thrashed by the bears. Its brute force tossed it like a rag doll. He didn't feel any pain and kept his head down, protecting his neck and keeping his face down. Robert was almost bitten in the left ear by the bear. His right thigh was severed by its claws, and his left ear was almost ripped off. Robert continued to lie there, holding on to the hope that the bear would stop its attacks and go away. Robert's hopes were fulfilled when the bear left him for the second time. It snorted and then wandered off into the trees. Robert refused to move. Robert could not breathe, and he was intently listening for any sign of the bear. He lay there still and silent, his mind racing if he tried to move his head to check for the bear. Should he keep his face down? He could risk the bear returning for more. Where was his gun? How badly did he bleed? Robert had the gun taken out of his hand during the attack. He calmed down, taking in one deep breath at a time. Slowly, he moved his head to the side. He was still there, and he looked around. He saw nothing. Slowly, he moved his head to the opposite side of the bear and searched for it. His attacker was not visible. Robert carefully tried to get up. He couldn't because he was too injured. He managed to roll onto his back. Robert gasped in pain and reached for his radio. He pressed it to his lips to make a desperate mayday call. The radio rang and then it stopped. Robert repeated the mayday call several times, each time a 20-second interval. To his dismay, no one answered. He was aware that he needed immediate help, but he couldn't move. While pondering his predicament, he suddenly heard the radio roar to life. It was the pilot of a helicopter. He wasn't responding directly to Robert's mayday. He was calling to determine Robert's exact location so he could pick him up. Robert informed the pilot about what had happened, and he flew low to circle the area. Pilot sighted the forest in outwardly expanding circles and was convinced that the bear had vanished. He then went to the valley to retrieve a field medic. Robert exhaled a sigh of relief as the helicopter touched down just yards away, and Ryan Campbell, wilderness medic, stepped off. Robert ran to him and assessed his injuries. He was badly bleeding and had many open wounds. Ryan started to clean the wounds and apply pressure bandages. Robert groaned in pain. The pain was unbearable. Robert described the pain as a mix of electricity and fire. Ryan and the pilot carried Robert into the helicopter and laid him down. They flew to a nearby airport and radioed for help. The emergency medical crew was waiting to fly Robert to Anchorage. It was an hour-long, agonizing flight. Robert tried desperately to stay awake. He kept reminiscing about the attack over and again in his head. He was unsure of his mistakes. Could he have done it differently? Robert had surgery on his open wounds at the hospital. He was fortunate to be alive. He had survived by playing dead. His face was only scratched lightly. He was able to save his neck by lying down on his back and protecting his neck. Although he should have brought a larger caliber gun, he was so quick to react that he may not have struck the bear. Roberts claims he has no grudge against the bear. Roberts knew he was in bear territory and he understood the dangers. His survival was possible because of his quick thinking and training. Rick Sanat, a biologist with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, said that Robert did what was right by playing dead. He stated that most bears are just trying to eliminate the threat. If you shout and scream and wave your arms around, they will continue attacking you. But if you are still and silent, then the threat is gone. Robert was neutralized the second time around.